There's a certain quiet that only exists between midnight and dawn. It's the kind of silence that listens back. My name is Daniel Reyes, and this is what happened to me during one of those nights.
The following audio is taken from a recovered interview file, dated February 2024.
My name is Daniel Reyes. I'm 34, and I've worked the night desk at the Red Elm Motel for almost 6 years. The motel sits outside Winslow, Arizona, right where the desert starts to eat the road. You can drive for miles and see nothing but sagebrush, power lines, and the occasional truck stop with a broken sign buzzing like an insect. I work from 11:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., 5 nights a week. Most nights are quiet. I keep the lobby lights dim, drink too much coffee, and listen to an old radio that only picks up 2 stations, both country. Every night around 2:17 a.m., I heat up a microwavable burrito from the vending machine in the hallway. Same flavor, same brand. It's not superstition, it's just routine. When you work nights long enough, routine becomes religion. That's probably why I noticed him so easily the first night he came in. It was February 9th, 2018. Cold for Arizona, the kind of cold that feels hollow. The lobby was empty. I'd just taken the burrito out of the microwave when the doorbell chimed. A man stepped in. He wore a gray suit, not old-fashioned, but too formal for a roadside motel. He looked about 50, thin. He had this faded look, like a man you've seen before in a dream or in the background of someone else's photograph. He smiled politely and said, "Do you have a room open? Number 9, if possible." That was odd. Most people just ask for any room. I flipped through the logbook. Room 9 was empty, so I nodded and said, "Sure. One night?" He paused. "One night is enough." When I handed him the key, I noticed his fingers were cold. Not like outside cold, but refrigerator cold. I didn't think much of it. After he left, I went back to my burrito. The lobby smelled faintly of burnt matches. He came back the next night. Same time, same gray suit. Same request. Room 9, if it's free. I joked, "You must really like that room." He smiled, polite again. "It's familiar." Same handwriting in the logbook. Edward Hale. He paid in cash, old bills, crisp, the kind that feel like they've been pressed flat for decades. When he left, I noticed the time. 2:17 a.m. Exactly when I usually eat. A week passed. He checked in every other night, always at 2:17, always room 9. One slow night, I asked Rosa, our cleaner, if she'd seen the man from room 9. She frowned. Nobody's been staying there. The bed's untouched. Every morning I showed her the receipts, the logbook, his name. She shook her head, crossing herself. "Senor, that room burned, years ago. They never fixed it right." That night I called Tom, the owner. He'd run the motel since the early 90s. "Tom," I said, "who's Edward Hale?" He was silent for a long time. Then, "Jesus, where'd you hear that name?" I told him about the man, the suit, the nightly check-ins. Tom sighed. "That's impossible. He died in that fire. 1996. Room 9. Smoking in bed." I told the insurance it was electrical. "So you rebuilt it?" I asked. "We sealed it off. Never reopened." The next night, the bell chimed again. 2:17. Like a clock striking a note only I could hear. He walked in. Same gray suit, same hollow smile. "Room 9, please." I stared at him, trying to act normal. "That room's closed, sir." He tilted his head slightly. "No." It's waiting. He slid a 20 across the counter. The paper felt damp, soft, like it had been soaked and dried years ago. "Keep the change," he said, and turned toward the hallway. I didn't stop him. Something about the air around him. It smelled faintly of burnt dust. And when he passed under the ceiling fan, the lights flickered. I checked the security camera. He wasn't there. The lobby door opened, the key disappeared from the pegboard, but the feed showed only empty air. Still, the logbook showed his signature, fresh ink glistening under the light. Edward Hale, room 9. I didn't sleep that day. The next night I brought my phone and recorded the hallway camera. At 2:19 a.m., the door to room 9 opened slowly. Smoke drifted out, but there was no fire. Then the door closed again. When I checked in the morning, the hallway smelled like ashes and cologne. 2 weeks later, I convinced Rosa to open the room with me. The key turned like it hadn't been used in years. Inside, clean. Empty. Except for a faint burn mark on the carpet. A perfect oval in front of the window. On the nightstand, an old brass lighter. Rosa covered her mouth. That's the same one from the police photo. She left and never came back to work.
I started digging. County records showed the 1996 fire killed one man, Edward Hale, age 47, traveling salesman from Phoenix. He'd stayed at the Red Elm Motel at least 6 times that year, always the same room, always checked in 2:17 a.m. I found scanned copies of the old incident report. Under time of death, 2:17 a.m. That's when I stopped eating my burrito. March 3rd. The wind was sharp, carrying dust through the parking lot. The lobby clock read 2:17. I waited. The bell chimed. I looked up. No one was there, but the key for room 9 was gone from the board. The hallway lights flickered. Something warm brushed my ear. A breath. A whisper. "You've kept it ready." I turned. The air shimmered with heat for a second, then cold again. When I went to check the room, the door was open. Inside, nothing but the faint glow of an ember in the dark, floating midair like a tiny, burning heart. Then it blinked out. The next morning, the owner called. He said the fire alarms in the closed wing had gone off overnight. No smoke, no damage, but the sensors in room 9 had registered a temperature of 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 seconds. That's hot enough to melt glass. I quit that day. 3 months later, demolition crews tore down the north side of the motel. Behind the plaster wall of room 9, they found a logbook page fused into the concrete, charred but legible. Edward Hale, February 9th, 1996, room 9. And underneath, a second signature. Daniel Reyes, March 3rd, 2018, room 9. But I never signed it. Every motel has a room that should never be rented. At Red Elm, it's room 9. And at 2:17 a.m., someone always checks in. I moved to Flagstaff 2 weeks after quitting. Small apartment, top floor, decent view of the mountains. I told myself I'd start fresh. No more night shifts, no more empty hallways, no more desert. The first few nights were fine. I'd stay up late, make instant noodles, scroll on my phone until I passed out. But then, one night, around 2:17 a.m., I woke up to a smell I hadn't felt since the motel. Burnt matches and old smoke.
I checked every outlet, every candle, even the heater. Nothing. Still, the smell lingered, like someone had just exhaled it beside my bed. On April 10th, a small brown box appeared on my doorstep. No return address, just my name, D. Reyes. Inside, an old motel key. Room 9, Red Elm Motel. Attached to a melted piece of plastic. I dropped it. The metal was warm, almost hot, even though it was freezing outside. I called Tom, the old owner. Disconnected number. I looked it up online. Red Elm Motel had been demolished a week earlier. But one photo in the article made my stomach drop. A man in a gray suit stood in the background, half hidden by construction workers. No one in the photo seemed to notice him. After that, I stopped sleeping properly. Every night around the same time, I'd wake up sweating. In the dream, I'm always back at the front desk. The lobby clock reads 2:17. The microwave hums, and someone's waiting at the counter. Not moving, just waiting. When I finally force myself to look up in the dream, it's him. Edward Hale. But his face isn't burned. It's mine. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove back toward Winslow. The highway felt wrong, wider somehow, flatter, like the world had stretched thin. When I reached the old Red Elm property, there was nothing left but sand and rebar. No sign, no foundation, no parking lot. Just the desert, rippling with heat though it was nearly midnight. But standing there, in the dark, I heard it. The faint ding of a lobby bell. Once, twice. Then the soft metallic jingle of a keychain. I froze. The sound came from nowhere, and everywhere. Then, as if on cue, a shape flickered in the heat haze. A doorframe, hanging in the air. And on it, a brass number. 9. I don't remember walking forward, but I did. The desert light changed. It wasn't night anymore. It was that washed-out motel glow again. Sickly yellow bulbs buzzing in the ceiling. The lobby was empty, but the microwave was running. The clock read 2:17. There was a logbook on the counter. One entry on the page. Edward Hale, 1996. And below it, Daniel Reyes, 2018. And then, a third line slowly appeared. The ink writing itself, letter by letter. Daniel Reyes, 2024. I dropped the pen I wasn't holding. The lobby lights flared white, smoke filled the air. And through the haze I saw him, sitting behind the desk, in my chair. Same gray suit, same smile. He said calmly, "Someone has to check people in." The next thing I remember is waking up in my car. Dawn breaking over the desert. The demolition site behind me. Empty. No door, no building, no footprints. But on the passenger seat, the motel logbook lay open. The last line glowed faintly before fading. Checked in. No checkout time.
And you've had no contact with anyone from the motel since?
No, the owner's gone. Rosa moved to California. Everyone's gone.
Then how did the logbook appear in your car?
I don't know. Maybe it never left.
What do you mean by that?
I still dream about the front desk, the microwave, the bell. Sometimes I wake up and the air smells like fire.
What time do you wake up?
217.
The Red Elm Motel doesn't exist on any map now. Even the county archives list it as Lot 14, vacant land. But sometimes, travelers on Route 66 report seeing a faint glow in the desert, a small lobby light flickering through the dust. If you stop the car and listen closely, you might hear a bell. Then a man's voice, distant and calm. Welcome to the Red Elm Motel. Room 9 is open.
This was Room 9, a real horror file from the Hollow Frequency archives. If you're driving through Winslow after midnight and you see a single light in the desert, don't stop, because at 2:17 a.m., every silence hides a signal.